Welcome to part 8 of our D2L video series. In this video, we're going to talk about using the Dropbox tool. The Dropbox can be used to set up folders that the students can turn in their assignments into. You can set up a folder for each assignment that's due in the class, and these can be set up as individual submission folders or as group submission folders. To find the Dropbox, you'll simply click the Dropbox link on the course nav bar. The Dropbox is a really easy tool to use. Basically, you'll see here that I have a couple of folders that are created. I can see if there are any files in the folder, if there's any files that I haven't read yet. I can also see if I have set an end date for the folder so that I'll know the date that the folder closes for students. The pencil, like in other tools in D2L, allows me to edit the Dropbox folder if I need to change any of the options that I've set up previously. To create a new Dropbox folder, I'll simply click the New Folder button up at the top. When creating a new Dropbox folder, remember that the red asterisk represents a required field, just like in other areas in D2L. Here I have to give my Dropbox folder a name. And then you can see that the remaining options are mostly optional. I don't have to use any of these if I don't want to, but we'll go ahead and talk about them. The plagiarism detection option is going to turn on a tool called Turnitin. If I check this box, the paper is going to be ran through the Turnitin integration, which is going to give me an originality report so I can see how original the student's submission is. I'm going to go ahead and check the box so that we can talk about some of these options later. My next option is to choose the folder type. If this is an individual submission folder, that basically means that each student will submit to the folder individually and other students in the class do not see their submission. A group submission folder is used when I have groups in the class that are already created and I want to set this Dropbox up so that a particular group can submit to the folder. All the members of the group can see the folder and all the members can submit to the folder. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on individual submission folder. A grade item is used if I want to associate this Dropbox with the gradebook. I'm going to go ahead and associate it with a grade item so that I can show you how that option works. I can choose an out of score, which is basically the score that I'm going to grade the student's submission out of. I can type in some custom instructions if I'd like, and also attach a file. This can be used if you need to attach a rubric for grading or maybe an example document that you want the students to look over before starting their paper. The submission options basically control how the student can submit to this Dropbox folder. The first section here, files allowed per submission, basically means when the student logs in and they come to the Dropbox to submit some files, are they going to be allowed to submit multiple files using the unlimited option or just one file per submission? If you choose unlimited, that basically means that the student can submit 2, 3, or 4 files at a time, or they can choose, you can have it set up so that they can only submit one file. The next option determines what happens if the student tries to submit something else to the folder. Is it going to keep all submissions? Is it going to overwrite previous submissions? Or are you only allowing one submission? So basically the first submission is the only submission allowed to the Dropbox folder. Down at the bottom, we have the plagiarism detection options. These only show up because we checked the box at the top to turn on plagiarism detection. The default options are usually pretty good, but you may choose to change some of them. The option here, display, if you check this option, it's going to allow the students to see their own originality report. Otherwise, you will only see it. The frequency determines how the report is ran. If it's left on automatic, the plagiarism report for originality is going to be ran as soon as the student submits their paper. So if they submit a paper at 8 o'clock at night, when you log in the next morning, the originality report will be there. If you turn it on to identify individual submissions, you will have to manually choose the papers to submit for originality checking. I prefer to leave it on automatic just so that it's there waiting on me whenever I need to log in and check it. The next options are used to determine what the student's submission is checked against. By default, it's going to check it against the user paper database. That's every paper that's ever been turned in to turn it in. The current and the archived internet, which is generally where most students will plagiarize from, and also periodicals, journals, and publications. Finally, down at the bottom, this option you may choose to disable. This option, when checked, is going to add the student submission to the user paper database so that future submissions will be checked against the student's paper. You may want to turn this off if it's a rough draft or something that the student's going to be working on over the semester, and then turn it on at the end of the semester when they're submitting their final submission and their final paper. Again, these options give you a lot of flexibility with setting up how you want your folder to work. So I'm going to go down to the bottom and click the Save button so that this folder is created. And now I'm going to show you one last area. If we come over to the Restrictions tab, you can see that we have the availability dates. These are the exact same thing as you've seen on other tools in D2L. This allows you to set the start date and the end date for the Dropbox folder. The start date being when students can start submitting to the Dropbox folder, and the end date being when the Dropbox folder will close to their submissions. Another nice feature is the displaying calendar checkbox. By checking this box, it's going to build the calendar entries for the start and the end date on the students' calendars so that they'll see it when they log into the course. Finally, down at the bottom, the special access option allows you to set up special permissions for students to submit outside of the normal availability dates. So for instance, if you have a student that has a note from Disability Services, or maybe they're going to be out of town and they've talked to you about it, and so you agree that you want to open the folder up longer for them, you can select it on the first option here to set up the folder for a student to submit outside of the normal availability dates. So here I have it set to be open during this week, but maybe I want to allow a student a couple of extra days. So I can click the Add Users to Special Access box. It's going to show me a listing of all my students in the class. I can select one with the checkbox and then set a special date range for this student so they get a few extra days. Now when I save the special access, you'll see that down at the bottom it's telling me that Lucy is going to have this date range, where everyone else in the course is going to have this date range. The other option is used if you need to open up a Dropbox folder for just specific students and you don't want the other students in the class to see the Dropbox folder. So you can use this option to do that. Let's go ahead and return back to the folder list to see the Dropbox folder that we've created. Here I can see my Paper 3 Dropbox folder. The icon here with the binoculars lets me know that this is a plagiarism detection enabled Dropbox folder, and the ruler lets me know that this is a graded item. Now I've gone ahead and logged into my course as a student so that we're viewing the Dropbox as a student. I wanted to show you what the submission process looked like to a student. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my Paper 3 Dropbox folder as a student, and here I can see when the deadline for turning in my paper is. If there were custom instructions or an attachment, I could view those as well. Now I can click the Add a File button and browse my computer for the file that I want to turn in. So I'm going to select this file and click Upload. So I've submitted my file. I could leave some comments for my instructor here, but if I'm ready to submit, I'll come down and click the Submit button at the bottom, and it tells me that this file has been submitted successfully. Now, the student will receive an email when this happens. If the file did not submit successfully, they will not receive that email, and that's one way for them to know that maybe something has happened. If you ever have a student tell you that they've submitted to a Dropbox folder and you're logging in and not seeing the file, you need to ask them if they have that submission email that confirms it's a confirmation receipt that the file was submitted successfully. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my folder list, and I can see that I have one submission. Now, once you log in as the instructor and you grade this paper, the student would be able to come here and see their score and also see any feedback that you've left for them. I'm going to go ahead and log out of the student's account and log back into my account so that we can look at the Dropbox folder. Okay, I'm now in a course that has some Dropbox submissions so that I can show you what that would look like. So I'm going to go ahead and go into this folder that tells me it has 3 submissions. And here I can see a breakdown of my students' names, and below their name I'm going to see the paper that they've turned in. To the right of that I'm going to see their originality report, and a high number here is actually bad. So if you see 100%, that basically means that something is 100% plagiarized or 100% unoriginal. If you have a 0%, it's going to be 100% original work, and the color is also going to change. So if it's green, blue, those are usually good colors. If it's yellow or red, then it's maybe something that you want to look at. Now I could click on the title of the paper here to actually download it to my computer and open it in its original file format. So if it's a Word file, I could open it in Word, or if it was a PowerPoint file, I could open it in PowerPoint, and so on. Now on this page I can do a few things. One thing, I can email the student. So if I wanted to send Charlie an email, I could check his name and click the email button right here to send Charlie an email. I can download all the papers in this Dropbox folder. So if I check the box here to highlight everyone, I can click the green arrow to download all submissions in the folder. I can also delete student submissions. So if I had my Dropbox folder set up to only accept one submission, I could actually come in here and delete using the trash can, or just highlight a student's name and click the delete the trash can here at the top to actually delete the student's submission so that they could turn in another paper. Now the first thing I want to show you is the leave feedback tool. So here to the right of Charlie's name there's an option that says leave feedback. If I click on that, it's going to take me to a screen that, again, I can see the paper's name, I can see the originality report here on the side, and down the right side of the screen I have a few different options. So first, I could click here to download the paper just like I could on the previous screen. I can click the arrow to select View Document. This is actually going to load the document here in this frame so that I can read it if I don't want to open it up into Word. And once I'm ready, I could come over here on the side and leave a score for the student. I could type in some feedback and then come down to the bottom and save. Now if this was a file that I had opened up into Word and I used track changes to actually type on the document and leave feedback and comments for the student, I would then be able to save that and use the add a file option here to attach that file back to this Dropbox folder so that the student could see it. Now a new option that we have in D2L is to mark up the document in D2L. So you can see up here at the top I have a button that says markup document, and if I click on that, it's going to load the Turnitin software, and it's going to load their paper into the GradeMark software. So you can see here I'm on GradeMark. I can see the paper, and using this tool I'm going to be able to leave comments on the paper. So if I just click somewhere, you'll see that I can get a little text box that I can leave a comment. You can also have commonly used phrases that you can just drag out onto the document as you're reading it. Makes it really easy and quick to grade and mark up your papers. It also gives the student great feedback because they're going to be able to, when they're reviewing their paper, to read the descriptions that you have here. So this is a great tool for marking up your students' papers. Now if we return back to the Dropbox folder, you'll see that I'm finished marking up the document, I've left a grade, and then I can come down and click Save. If I click Save and Next, it's going to go ahead and save this score for Charlie, and it's going to move on to my next student in the class. I can also use the next student or previous student buttons up at the top to move back and forth through my student submissions. So here I can see the next paper, see my student, and go through the process again. Now I'm going to go ahead and return back to the folder Submissions. And now let's go ahead and talk about the originality report. So here on this paper, I can see that it has 100%. That actually means that this paper is likely 100% plagiarized. If I click on the red box, it's going to open up the originality report so that I can view it. And here it tells me that there's one source, and it's saying that it was a paper that was submitted to East Tennessee State University. Now you can see here that everything is highlighted in red with the letter 1, and that is matching to this submission over here on the right side. Now the way this works is if a student turned in a paper and it was matched against multiple sources, those would all be listed down the right column here in different colors, and then the paper would be marked up with the different colors to represent the different sources that the paper is matched to. It will have a percentage to the right of the name that tells you what percentage of the paper was copied from that source. You can also click on the text. It's going to pop up a box that basically gives you a description of the text that was copied. Now if it's a paper, it's going to tell you that you need to submit a request to the author's instructor so that they can approve you seeing the original paper. If it's an internet source, you're just going to see the text from the internet website, and you can even click on that to actually jump out to the website to compare and contrast. So this is a great tool for being able to determine if your students are copying from each other or off the internet. Now if I close this and return back to my Dropbox folder, I can see that I've left Charlie some feedback. It tells me the date when I left it. When Charlie logs into the course, he's going to be able to see that feedback that I've left him. That concludes our discussion about the Dropbox tool. It's a really great tool for allowing students to turn in assignments to you, and with the added functionality of the Turnitin integration, allowing you the originality reports for checking plagiarism and also GradeMark for marking up your papers. It really makes your grading process easy, and it adds a lot of benefit for the student in being able to see informative and interactive feedback. In another video, we'll go into a little more depth about using the Turnitin tools for the originality checker and also GradeMark. In our next video, we're going to talk about the D2L discussion tool. Thanks for watching.